Monopoly getting a socially conscious makeover. The publisher Hasbro is going to change all 16 of Monopoly's community chest cards to remove outdated concepts and will emphasize community. So here's what's happening. Instead of winning a beauty contest, for instance, you'll see rescuing a shelter pet, tending a community garden, or shopping local all week. And some other cards would penalize players for forgetting to recycle or blasting music too late at night. And they want fans to vote now, Hasbro does. And they have plans to debut the new look Monopoly this fall. And this is kind of in line with a lot of changes that we've seen over the past year, but even more specifically the last month or 6 weeks. Mr. Potato Head, Dr. Seuss, Disney Plus. And what was trending over the weekend was I don't even know how to say it. Monopoly? Wokopoly? Is that how you would say it, Dave?
Wokopoly?
Wokopoly. That's how you'd say it. So I got on the horn here with my guy, Adam Rizzieri, Chief Marketing Officer with Agency Partner Interactive, a digital marketing firm. I want to talk this through with you, Adam. Adam, how are you?
Hey, Cory, doing well. I think you got it right. Wokopoly, I think. Sounds about right?
Well, what do you think about this with Monopoly changing its game?
You know, a lot of the toy makers are really just trying to update their brands, and we know Hasbro has been one of those leading companies in the world for quite some time. This year, I know just as a company, they're trying to really see double-digit revenue growth in 2021, and Monopoly is kind of in a cash cow for these guys. They sell something like 275 million copies of the game per year, and this is going to sound like Monopoly money, but they print like $30 billion from Monopoly. They've printed over $3 trillion since 1935, and so, you know, how do I feel about this one? What do I kind of see? Well, you know, they announced to their investors, because this company went public in 1968, but they announced to their investors that they were going to basically release 3 different versions of Monopoly this year, this one being one of them, and just trying to update those community chess cards. They're allowing the public to actually vote between now and April 9th on what these new 16 community chess cards might be. Now, Cory, there's over 1,100 different versions of Monopoly. Actually, confession, one of the versions I have is Pugopoly. I've got pugs, right? I'm a pug parent. And so, you know, this one, though, as a marketer, as a company, especially one that creates products, you got to measure the temperature in the room. And I know there's some mixed feedback on this one. The goal here is to create a version of Monopoly that's a little bit more socially aware, a little bit more 2021. But the feedback is very mixed. I've seen users, you know, fans of Monopoly post things like, you know, don't tamper with a classic. I still want to win the beauty contest. That was actually posted by a Monopoly champion, British guy. Mm-hmm. Another user basically said, you know what? Yeah, Monopoly was antiquated when I first played it several decades ago, but I liked that. It kind of added to the charm of the game. If we're going to try and make more of a socially aware or more of an honest sort of 2021 Monopoly, people are going so far as to say, okay, so let's create a Monopoly where in 2021, nobody actually pays rent. The person playing the banker just prints as much money as possible. And ultimately, you know, we got to take that route. Maybe create like a you've been canceled card, create a peaceful protest card that burns down houses, hotels, and businesses and causes property values to reduce by 25%, and then quadruple the cost to rebuild. I mean, the reviews on this right now, they're very, very mixed and actually very entertaining to read. If you look at some of the news coverage here, just kind of read the comment section and you'll see all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. And a couple of things here, Adam. One, when the public gets a chance to vote on things, it's never good. We just named a plow Plowy McPlowface here in the Twin Cities because people got to vote on what the next snow plow would be named here. So that's never... Having the public vote on things is never really a good option.
Cory, you're so right. There's a place in Texas called Dish. The town of Dish, this town renamed itself to Dish to get free TV from the Dish Network for 10 years.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, we can't, we've got to get a rein on letting public vote on things. Here's the other thing, Adam. Now, we look at Monopoly and what it's doing. Okay, and you mentioned a bunch of like, okay, well, couldn't we create these cards too of what, you know, has been an accurate reflection of this past year? I think, like, it seems like to me it is impossible to stay out of perceived politics today. To me, no matter what industry you're in, it seems like it's impossible, and it's got to be hard for these brands to navigate it as well.
Oh, sad but true. Sad but true. It is. Everything is just so divisive, and everyone's so sensitive these days. It's really hard for brands to kind of just stay out of politics. And then even when you're staying out of politics, then that's taking a position as well. And so that's a really, I think, tricky thing for any brand to navigate, especially a big company. When you have a big company like Hasbro, right, any publicly traded company, and we saw it from Goodyear last year, right? If one part of a company takes a certain position, I mean, how is that position going to be indicative of literally the thousands of people that a company might employ? When a company like this tries to do this kind of stuff, it's very difficult for a publicly traded company to really stay true to any sort of position. The NBA, right? Oh man, that's a huge one. The NBA has really tried to take positions that are in favor of certain social justice initiatives when one of their business partners, China, is guilty of rampant human rights violations. And a Chinese court recently ruled that homosexuality is a psychological disorder. And there's no response from the NBA. So, it's hard for brands to really be authentic to positions that they take or choose to not take. And a lot of it really, I think, points to the fact that money can drive hypocrisy in corporate America.
Yeah. Well, I know you're based in Dallas, and so you had, in Houston last year, Daryl Morey he's the one that talked about China and Hong Kong, which set off an enormous wave. And basically, to your point, the NBA was just like, shut up, stop talking about it. We don't want to talk about it. Yeah. And then you had in Dallas there, the Mavericks owner, Mark Cuban, saying earlier this year, we're not going to play the Star Spangled Banner anymore, to which the NBA said, no, you are going to play the Star Spangled Banner.
That's right. And that was actually following, I think, Megyn Kelly's attempt to get Mark Cuban to really point to the fact that China was guilty of a rampant genocide against the Uyghurs. He just wouldn't talk about it because China is a customer, quote.
How do you, so you are, here, it's agencypartner.com. So Adam's the chief marketing officer for Agency Partner Interactive. It's a digital marketing firm. So how do you navigate this as somebody who takes all these brands and you have to be careful, manicuring these brands up, because there is a sense of, I feel like today that, when you talk about cancel culture, people are looking for stuff right now, and they're looking for stuff to strikes against you, or they're looking in the past, and we can argue or not whether, this or, should or should not or whatever, but how do you navigate this time when people are looking to strike against you, like anything?
Yeah, I mean, where to turn? I think kind of going back to the basic principles of respect for one another, of talking to your neighbor, the principles that allow people to have their own diverse thoughts and opinions, and really just kind of having true respect for that, and not really kind of going after someone for thinking a little bit differently from you or the next person. As a business, I think it's important that people are given exposure to diverse thoughts and to diverse views. And, my company in particular is a company that has people from all sorts of different backgrounds. And it's not by mandate, but it's because really it gives us a competitive advantage. Diverse views, diverse thoughts, diverse people come together to really facilitate faster, better problem solving. And also it just makes life a little bit more interesting. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And so it's been really interesting to see these movements take place in our country over the past year or so that, they publicly preach for diversity, but in a way that is so counter to from what Martin Luther King Jr. was preaching, judging people basically by the quality and the content of their character. These views that we're seeing businesses take, in a lot of cases, are really just in pursuit of the closest dollar. Hasbro knows that it has a buck or two to make off of, those who are really kind of fueling the fire to the social justice initiative that we're seeing. Some of those discussions around critical race theory, there's a lot of money to be made there through training programs that, if you look to a lot of first-generation Americans, people that came here from China, Venezuela, Cuba, they will point to things like critical race theory as really one of the most racist things they've ever seen, and also the start of a movement towards canceling diverse thought and canceling diverse people. And that's definitely, I think, a very, very real danger that our society has to come to terms with.
Okay, last thing for you, Adam, and I haven't asked you this before, but how do you feel about, when we dig up these things on something somebody did 15 years ago or a tweet from 10 years ago? Like, how do you feel about that? And that's something, your company, as you represent or help companies brand, they have to think about that stuff too.
Cory, I'm trying not to get near that you've been canceled card in the community chest here, but in a nutshell, I think, frankly, depending on what that thing might have been, right, it might be a terrible opinion or a terrible position that someone still stands behind, or it might have been something that was said out of total ignorance, that perhaps creates a teachable moment that you can grow from. Yep. Nobody is perfect, and no one's a genius. And I think that as long as we really kind of allow people to show us who they are and not so much, kind of judge them based on one circumstance or situation, but kind of look at the context behind some of the things that are said. I think context means a lot. And no one is perfect, right? I'm sure I said stupid things in the past. I'm sure everyone has, right? Yep. But is the heart pure? Is the brand genuine in what it's trying to do? And ultimately, is it working towards a better tomorrow? If the answer to that is no, then I think that tells us everything. But if the answer to that is yeah, I'm working towards something a little bit more positive for myself and for everyone around me, then I think that has to be respected and appreciated.
Yeah, no cancel card for you. I agree. Like same thing. Like we can learn from things if they're way deep in our past. Like those to me are learning moments, and it's like, okay, well, you know what? I'm not the same person I was at 18 either. Like you grow and you evolve, and that's also how we all should. So, Adam, good conversation. You get to pass go, collect $200. Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate it, Cory. Have a great one.
You too, Adam Rizzieri, Chief Marketing Officer with Agency Partner Interactive. That's a digital marketing firm. Always appreciate the talks with Adam and his perspective.